karmani tat ayustam manovacha ninam yena ivishvatma sevyate harir ishvara. Again, the great sage Narada said, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller, his birth, all his fruitive activities, his lifespan, his mind, and his words are all factually perfect. Srila Prabhupada explains, in this verse, the word Ninam is very important. There are many other births besides human births, but Narada Muni is herein especially speaking of human births. Among human beings, there are different types of men. Out of them, those who advance in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness are called Aryan. Amongst Aryan, one who engages in the devotional service of the Lord is most successful in life. The word Ninam indicates that lower animals are not expected to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. But in perfect human society, everyone should engage in devotional service of the Lord. It does not matter whether one is born poor or rich, black or white. There may be so many material distinctions for one who takes birth in human society, but everyone should engage in the loving service, engage in the Lord's devotional service. At that present moment, civilized nations have given up God consciousness for economic development. They're actually no longer interested in advancing in God consciousness. Formerly, their forefathers were engaged in executing religious principles, whether one is Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Jewish, or whatever. Everyone has some religious institution. Real religion, however, means becoming God conscious. It is particularly mentioned herein that birth is successful. If an interest in Krishna consciousness is taken. Activity is successful if it results in serving the Lord. Philosophical speculation or mental speculation is successful when engaged in understanding the Supreme Personality of God. The senses are worth possessing when engaged in the service of the Lord. Actually, devotional service means engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. At the present moment, our senses are not purified. Therefore, our senses are engaged in the service of society, friendship, love, politics, sociology, and so on. However, when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, one attains bhakti or devotional service. In the next verse, these matters will be more clearly explained. When a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya saw the Lord, he said, and all desires were fulfilled. He said, today everything is auspicious. Today my birthplace and neighborhood are completely glorified. Today my senses from my eyes down to my toes are fortunate. Today my life is successful because I've been able to see the lotus feet that are worshipped by the goddess of fortune. The message is clear. Everything has to go into the direction of the sweet will of the Supreme Personality of God. And the great opposition are those who say God doesn't exist, God has no mind of his own, God has no message, Dharma is some abstracts which are extracted from intellectual speculation. No. Dharma. Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. I am coming and giving dharma. Krishna is giving dharma. Krishna is the one who takes initiative. And Krishna conscious means that follow that initiative Krishna has taken. That all of humanity may be blessed. That everybody will get the proper guidance. So God is the person, God has consciousness, God has compassion, God is enlightened, God is enlightening, God is guiding, but He does not want to impose Himself. He doesn't want to come in front of you and say, hey, I'm God, worship me. That's boring. That's what slavery is all about. Now you're my slave. Now you have to do what I say. Eh? If you don't, I beat you. I lock you up in a dark hole. So you will be repentant for not obeying me. That's not the relationship God wants to have with us. He wants us to be His loving devotees out of our own initiative and search and thirst and quenching the thirst of serving God and loving God in bhakti. That will be the marking principle of our progress. So that is what we have heard from our spiritual teachers. That is Krishna consciousness. That is real religion. Anything different from that conclusion, which doesn't respect other people who believe in God as a person, or people who argue God has no personality. How do you know that He's a person and not a person? Are you a person? Yes. Do you have thoughts of your own? Yes. Do you have the free will of what you're doing? Yes. So now you think God doesn't have that? Do you think you're bigger than God? Where do you come from? Oh, I don't know. So you don't know where you're going. I also don't know. You don't know where you're going. Oh my God. The door of the kitchen. So if somebody doesn't know where he comes from, he doesn't know where he's going, but he thinks he's God. Isn't that stupid? And he thinks God does not exist. But He exists. I am my ahankara. But ahankara is the false ego. But who are you? Are you the ahankara? No, your ego is always changing. You're the jivatma. And the jivatma, jivena swarupaya haya nityena Krishna das. Every jivatma has a potential to connect lovingly with his creation, his creator. Do you want to connect lovingly with your creator or not? Fabricate a philosophy where I created myself. Who has created himself? Nobody has created himself. That creating yourself is not existing. Anyhow, here we finish. Commentary?
I want to add something.